Welcome to the Success Resequencing Project. I'm Debbie Ponticus.
And I'm Jen Newman.
Join us as we challenge the traditional definitions of success so you can build a fulfilling path of your own.
Get ready for inspired, candid conversations while gaining tools, inspiration, and confidence to create your own authentic success story. If you are an entrepreneur, then it's probably safe to say that you have quietly battled with anxiety, the fear of failure, getting distracted, and so many other issues that get in the way of building a successful business. Our guest on today's podcast is no different. Tucker Blalock, the co-owner of the Brokery, a multi-million-dollar local real estate brokerage, is no stranger to these common demons. And today he opens up about his personal struggles on his journey and the coping mechanisms he has relied on over the years. He shares the lessons he has learned and what he believes are the secrets to building a fulfilling and successful business. Hi, Tucker.
Hey.
We're so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for joining us. So we're going to jump right into just the highlights. Okay, so go with me and confirm. You can corroborate that this is true. Okay, born and raised in Phoenix.
True.
Mm-hmm. Left home at 18. You went to U of A.
I did.
And instead of studying, you found yourself doing drugs, partying, going down the wrong path. We're just going right in, Tucker. Okay, this is chronological. Okay, let's go. Okay, enlisted in the Marine Corps.
I did.
And you saw it truly. You were presented with choices, with options, which was either basically death or institutions.
Yes, that's how I like to describe it.
That's how you like to describe it. And so you decided that was where you were going to go, was the Marine Corps. 2009, after 4 years of being in the Marines, came back to Phoenix. And this part I personally love. You started trading stocks at your dad's company. I need to envision young Tucker as a day trader. Like I need to we'll get there. Because I really need to know what that looked like. While you finished your degree at ASU, Go Devils. Thank you. You made the right choice. When working with your dad, you both started buying investment properties.
Yes.
And you thought, you know what? Why don't I get my license? That way you could handle your own transactions. And in 2012, you met your now business partner, Oleg Bortman, shout out to Oleg, who happened to be actually the listing agent on one of the properties that you were buying.
That's right.
Correct?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. And then the two of you hit it off, decided you were going to go into business together, cut to now 12 years later. And you own one of the top locally owned real estate companies in the Valley. I would actually say the state, 90 agents, 4 offices.
5 as of this week.
Okay, you're going to have to
Breaking
bring me
news.
up to speed. Breaking news right here. You heard it first. Yep. And all right, we'll talk about that later. And you're selling now, the company is selling about $500 million annually.
Yeah, just shy of that, $450 million this year.
All right, I wanted to bump it up for you, but we'll keep the facts
He's
straight.
very specific.
$450 million.
It's the day trader in him. He's like
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. He's like, keep it straight, Newman. What a story.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
We know that, Debbie and I know you personally. Obviously, we've both worked alongside you. We have such respect for your work ethic, for your commitment, your dedication. You are laser sharp focused. That's what we know to be true with you always.
Thank you. And just so you know, it's that right back at you. Without, your help over the years and mentorship and just being a friend, you guys also helped carry my business forward to where it is today. So Thank you both so much.
Wow. That actually might choke me up a little bit. So we're going to just keep going. Wow. That's really special. Thank you.
You bet.
I think for us, one of the key pieces that we talk about on success resequencing is really encouraging people to follow their own path and that there's no set way to get where you want to go. And we say that because it's really easy. The easy way for us to have this conversation is to simply speak to your accolades and to your accomplishments because they are many. And although we honor that, what we love is that we know that you did the incredibly hard work to get where you are today. And so we say it often that people can know the glory, but they see the glory, but they don't know the story.
Yep.
And we wanted to give the opportunity, because of your teacher's heart, we wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to tell the behind the scenes of how you got there.
For sure.
Because we find it to be encouraging. And we know that other people are going to resonate with that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's the whole premise of what we want to get across to our audience, and why we think your story is going to be very motivating and inspiring for others, is because, you are still quite young to be as successful as you are.
Yeah.
And you, from a very young age, were already put into some very pivotal moments in your life that help shape who you are and your successes today. And people can look at you, the agents that are at the Brokery with you, and they're, they want to be like you one day, right? But they don't understand the path that you had to take to get to where you are.
Sure.
And so we like for people to truly understand what that path looks like, and that it isn't all about the good, that there's sometimes those things in life that you have to discover about yourself to help truly bring out who you're supposed to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I love that. And I think one of the things about success, and you mentioned these accolades and things that you've said about me, which they're all true.
Yeah.
But success to me doesn't look like accolades. It doesn't look like any of those things. And I love what you guys are all about and why you're doing this. I've gone back and I've watched many episodes, many of the people I know, and they're great people as well. But one thing for me is, although I may be perceived as successful, I would never want the same for anybody else of what I go through on a day-to-day basis. I mean, it's very easy to be good at one thing, and that's a real estate company, and that's deemed successful.
Sure.
But nobody is successful in all avenues of life. My family life, my kids' lives, being more present, just all the above. I'm not the best version of myself everywhere that I could be, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Because at the end of the day, on this human journey, if we all had it figured out, what is the point? Right? What is the point of the day-to-day human experience if we aren't working towards something?
Right.
Improvement, evolution within ourselves. I mean, that's half of it.
Right. And I see these young agents that come into my life, because that's what I deal with. Those are my people, right? The agents that I have at the company, that's who I'm really involved with on a day-to-day basis, and who I speak to the best.
Yeah.
And when they say that, I want to have a business like you and Oleg, or I want to have all these things, I'm like, well, are you willing to sacrifice? Because I've sacrificed everything, right? And
Absolutely.
That's the biggest thing that I can be here to tell everybody, is that it's not, again, the accolades are great. You get those things, but it's the time you miss at home. It's the time that you miss, just in life. Like, I don't have a lot of friends, honestly. I stick to real estate because that's what I know best. That's what I love to do. And it almost like chokes me up because I get emotional about that. But that's the truth. I mean, I'm great at what we do, but there's so many other facets of life that we can do so much better.
Is there a facet that, first of all, thank you for that. Is there a facet that you felt came into focus recently where you were like, you know what? Now that I've done all these things, this is really standing out as a place that I want to now invest and focus in. What does that look like for you?
For sure. And there's definitely diminishing returns on the financial side. Early on in my career, it was all about financial, which it is for most people.
Yeah.
But the further that I get into it, and the more agents that we're able to impact, and we're able to see them grow their lives, and the things that they have, it makes me happy. And that's truly why we're doing it now. And as you guys know, over the past couple of weeks, especially, there's been a lot of turmoil and things happening in the real estate world, with bigger corporations coming in and purchasing smaller locally owned companies.
Yeah.
And, you kind of just lose that touch and that feel of the agent and their family, and you don't really have the camaraderie that you do at a smaller place like we do, a shop like we do. And I just feel like the culture piece for me is so big. And I could say that I'll never sell out, and I want to believe that. And, the reason being is just I want to impact more lives. And that, to me, that's more, and you guys talk about it a lot, fulfillment.
Yes.
That's what success is. It's fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's really what I'm striving for in my life today, is just having more fulfillment, whether that's being more present with my kids, because that does fulfill me, whereas in the past I've been missing on that end. So again, that's all that I'm striving for, is to impact more lives. A byproduct may be becoming more successful in real estate, or deemed more successful, which is fine. People can label me that, but I think success is in the eye of the beholder.
Yes.
And so to me, I don't feel successful. I've never called myself successful to anybody. Even say Elon Musk, right? Many people see him as successful, but they don't know what's going on inside his head. Is he winning the battle of the mental in his head?
Yeah.
Does he get to spend time with his kids? Does he have those things that people think are successful, or that they want him to be? You know, and I think, so the projection of success is, I think, the hard part.
Yeah.
Right?
So a question that I have for you, you're talking about, and I can hear like in your voice and the direction you're going with this is that you've, as you mentioned, you've sacrificed a lot to get to where you are. Sacrificed time with, as a dad, as a husband, as a, friend, colleague, right? So looking back, is it worth it?
It was, because I'm hopeful that I can turn things or turn a corner where I don't have to be out on the hamster wheel like I normally am. I think that there's, I've made good inroads in a very short amount of time, in my opinion, within 10 to 12 years since I'm like that we've done all these things. So things happen really fast. I feel like if people invest their time and energy into one thing that they do best, they can make it really far really quickly. And that's what we've done. I mean, we do want to grow more. We still want to work. I'm still in the take the hill mentality. I want to act like I'm foot off the gas, because that's not it at all. But there's a method to how you can work and work more efficiently and still be a little bit more present than I was previously.
Okay, I love this.
Yeah.
I love this.
Right.
Because this is something you and I talk about a lot. And truly a piece that we have woven into our 5 core values. The undertone is fulfillment, and it is also presence over perfection. It is about honoring and being authentic to what truly drives us internally. And that does look different for everybody. What I love about this, though, is this really, it's like this intersection of success, what we're talking about, which in this case, let's say it from a work position, but then this personal intersection where we get to that crossroad. And you said something so specific, which is you don't want people to think you've taken your foot off the gas. And that is so true. But it's that balance, that harmony that we're looking for, which is who says that being present and being fulfilled is less than. They actually work together.
It's from the third party observing, though, right?
Yes.
They want to see you as successful, but their vision of success may be different than your internal vision of success. And so it's what you're projecting. Versus what you're feeling internally. And that's where the strife is. And that's the first time I hit the microphone.
No, it's all right. It's okay. We can have a drink.
We're going to do like a counter down at the bottom for our guests.
But that's where the internal strife is. I still want people to perceive the business as successful. I still want them to think that it's still functioning at a high level. Without burdening myself with all these things that go on behind the scenes, right?
That's exactly
right.
And
I think that you're probably in a big transition, because I've worked in corporate prior to when I got my license. And I've seen this happen with businesses that are growing. And when they hit these turning points, not only does the business shift, and it has to, like if you're going to have the mindset of growth, you're going to hit pivots or levels where you have to level up. And that leveling up looks different. And it's different as far as what it looks and it's perceived as, but it's different as the amount of energy you have to invest in it. But at the same time, I've seen that in that transition, the position that you're in that business, you have an important decision to make. And that important decision to make is how much of the day to day are you going to be getting drained versus how are you going to become the visionary and bring in people around you to then build it for you and be able to express that vision so that you can build and take it to the next level, but you are now putting in that balance because you can't lead your team if you don't have the energy. And I've seen this happen, and I can sense that this is like the stage of where you are, where you're like, okay, I have literally given everything I have to this company and to the people that believe in it. But it is drained, right?
Well, the level that you have to function at is super high, and it's all the time, and it's unrelenting, right? Like
it is unrelenting.
It's all about consistency, and that's where most agents and most people in business fail, is it's a consistency. So that's why I like to feel good. I like to eat right. I like to do these things to help me perform at a very high level all the time. And people perceive that as me being strict or me being disciplined, and that's okay, because it's all the above.
I was going to say,
but to operate at the level that we are, or doing what we're doing as a small brokerage, which honestly is, in my opinion, one of the hardest businesses to start. The way that most people start in brokerage is they get 6 massive agents in one room and they say, here's our $1 billion of sales, let's go start a company. And 6 massive agents take off a company and they have $1 billion in sales from day one. We literally grew it from zero organically over a longer period of time, where we built this moat that I feel we have now in the last couple of weeks. that's really empowering me and it's really challenged me further. Because for the past, honestly, couple of years, I didn't feel challenged in the business. And we'll talk about this later, about the things that I got off. I got kind of sideways, I'm distracted on things. But now my focus is probably more intent than ever. And it's fun again. I really, really enjoy what we're doing. And so I'm excited to share it with you all.
Well, I love that because we love Happy Tucker like that. When you're fired up and ready to go, it's like, look out. Here we go.
LFG, everybody.
LFG with the fire emoji.
The fire emoji.
That's my favorite part. Yes. All I have to do is the fire emoji. And I'm like, that's my
Tucker.
homage to Tucker. That's Tucker. Yeah.
And I would just also say, success is also difficult in the fact that as you start to level up, as Debbie said, the decisions become more impactful on more people.
That's right.
So if you're not making decisions that aren't scaring you, you're just not playing big enough.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to get that out at the end here too, as we go through this, that if you're not making decisions that aren't scaring you, you're not going far enough. You're not going big enough. So a lot of decisions I've made over the past couple of weeks are scary. Going back into the business and going more all into the business, because over the years we put so much money back into the business. Everything, essentially 50% of everything that I made, I put back into the company.
Yeah.
So you're really betting on yourself and not others, which is very,
one
very
of
scary
our
sometimes.
one of our annual mottos was that, right? We had a theme. One of our annual themes was bet on yourself.
Yep.
My question is, when you talk about that moment, and you're right, if you don't think big enough, if it doesn't scare you, then you do have to you have to consider what that means. There's a difference between being scared or like, ooh, that's a stretch. Like, I'm going to have to grow into a better version of myself in order to achieve that.
Right.
Versus putting something on ourselves that is actually anxiety causing.
I'm going to stop you right there, because this is a perfect segue into our anxiety talk.
Let's talk about it.
And what I got wrong for a long time was anxiety and excitement. And I saw excitement as anxiety. And I was in this fearful state all the time.
Yeah.
So the way that I've reframed my life over the past couple of years has been, anytime that I feel anxious, I ask myself, are you excited? I'm going. I used to never fly on airplanes. I'm flying this week on Friday or Saturday morning. I'm taking an airplane to Dallas for my son's hockey tournament. And I'm scared, super scared. And then I reframe it before I got on the plane that this is just exciting. I'm going out on an airplane at 30,000 feet. You know, you have to reframe it to yourself, and your mind starts to change, and those things happen.
Well,
it just takes time.
That's right. You start changing those neural pathways, and you're reprogramming your brain, which is really important.
We've brought this book up several times. I don't know if you've read it or not, but Stuart introduced it to us. Stuart Crawford, who is a guest on our podcast. Don't believe everything you think.
Yes.
Have you read that book?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay. If you've seen it, or maybe put it on a podcast or listen to it,
on Audible.
It is exactly what you're talking about, and that you have to reframe. So you have a thought, right? You're going to get on a plane.
Yep.
Now it's the thinking you do about that thought that can completely derail your direction, or it can change it to a positive, right?
Yeah.
It's not about the negative, it's about the positive.
Yeah.
So that is, a great way to kind of cope with the anxiety or excitement. I think that's great.
So while I was in the Marine Corps and dealing with all these things, all these stressors I had put myself under, I became very reclusive. I didn't have a lot of social interactions or anything else. I just kind of went back to my room every day after we did our thing, and I would just be there by myself. But after 4 years of doing that, I came back out into society.
Yeah.
And everything triggered my body in different ways, right?
Yeah.
So like I felt fearful and excited and all these things. I was just excited to talk to people. It was like the weirdest thing. I got goosebumps just talking to a stranger. Like, it was the most bizarre thing. And now that I'm a salesperson, you look back and you're like, that's incredible, right? Like, you didn't talk to people really. I mean, during the day job I did, but I would go home and just be very reclusive.
Yeah.
So being able to go out and experience things, my body was always fired up in a state that I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
And I perceived that as anxiety for a long, long time. It wasn't until like my son was born in around 2014 that things really started to change.
Interesting.
How so?
I just became a lot less anxious. And I believe, that was like maybe one of those things I had on my list that, like, becoming successful, it was always a chip on my shoulder. And that's why I felt a lot of stress, is because of the fear of failing. And I think one of the things on my bucket list was probably have a son or have a kid. And then the day that I checked that box so that I saw things happen, it was like a shift, right? And so like, it's as you start checking those boxes off that your anxiety becomes less and less. For me, that's how it was.
Yeah. Well, that's true even in a day-to-day. If you're a high achiever and you've got 6,000 things, we've talked about this a lot. Like for me, when I start to really feel anxiety in my day, I literally have to sit down and write my to-do list. Because I think I have 6,000 things when really I have 10 that I should probably attack.
Right.
So it really is just that calming of the mind to re-mindset, reset yourself. Because like you said, we are in positions and we're in the industry that you have to be on at all times. We're business owners, and we're business owners that are not plateaued. There's more to give. There's more to build. There's more that we want to do with that. And that can look in different ways, and so you have to be able to kind of reset a little bit because we take it all on.
Yes.
For sure. It's we're the one that has to do it. We're the only one that can do it.
Right.
It has to be perfect, just this whole cycle we get ourselves into. But I think that those are characteristics of people that do achieve things in life. But if we don't find that way to balance it out, then that's when the burnout happens. That's when we start, just going into a hole, not really interacting anymore, losing our passion for what we do.
And so COVID for me was like, it was a blessing and a curse both. I mean, I enjoyed COVID because I am that kind of person. I don't need social interaction. Right. I would prefer that someone just lets me go home and sit there and I don't need to talk to anybody. Like I'm not the one you're going to find at Steak 44 on the weekends. I'm not the one you're going to find out. I'll probably be at my kid's football game or at his hockey game and those things, but that's about all the social that we do, right? For better or worse. And but COVID was a time for me when I almost got sideways again because I just wanted to be in my room by myself. I didn't want to go out in public. My anxiety and my thoughts of germs and my germophobia came back and just weird things like that. So it spurred a lot of mental issues for me again that thankfully I was equipped to handle this time.
Yes.
Which is the main difference. Again, relying on food as medicine, a lot of exercise, getting outside more often, doing those things that really help me mentally stay sharp. That was great for me. So I have been able to get back since 2022 back to full functioning, feeling really good again. But COVID was a place that was a pretty dark time. I think it still is for most. So
I agree.
Oh yeah.
And it does for myself personally, very similar with germophobia and a lot of anxiety, and learning how to then reintroduce as someone who does love social interaction. I actually realized during that time that I craved on a very deep level, I craved quiet and rest. That's when I realized I'm more of an extroverted introvert than I thought I was. And so re-entering back into society, it made me realize that all the networking in the world, all the social interaction, all the meet and greets and belly to belly time, although there is a key component of that that's very integral to what we do, that if I wasn't dealing with honoring that need for rest and quiet, that's actually where some of my best ideas come from. And that I was so on autopilot with work that it actually took a health scare, it took COVID, it took the universe, if you will, saying, pump the brakes. There is something about slowing down to speed up. And that process is a sacred process that everyone has to find their own journey with. I just love hearing how that's worked for you and how pouring back into yourself through food, through exercise, through that
through discipline,
mindset,
through routine, through something you can count on, right? You know
what
something you can control.
Exactly.
And that's where, and when a day is out of control, you have something that you've controlled.
There.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So tell me about, we know, just knowing you, we know that family is very important to you. And we know that Ashley, your wife, has been a very important part of your journey from the beginning. So how do you feel like she has been able to kind of help you through all the past 10, 15 years of this?
Yeah. So we met, we've known each other since she was 18, I was 19. And so we met in the Marine Corps. But what is funny is I had literally had nothing back then. So she met me when I absolutely had zero. Right? Maybe I had some acne. That's about all I had. So, other than the acne that I had or whatever I had for her at that time.
You had a uniform.
She saw something. She saw something in me, obviously, but I would say that she kissed a frog and she got a prince. Hopefully that still rings true. But honestly, from early on, like she would have to go through a lot mentally with me because every day I was dying. I was Googling random symptoms of heart palpitations and all these things that I would come up with. I went to the ER multiple times just for thinking I was dying, right? It's just, again, that anxiety just gets you and it just grips you to death. So just being by my side when I would complain for years on end about the same things I've always complained about and not giving up, right?
Right.
So that's a huge thing. And then not only that, just being able to take on our family roles while I was able to go out with a flexible schedule on the weekends and work has always been a huge thing. Even though, at times I do press her, I wish she would get more involved in real estate. But selfishly, I think that's just so I could maybe deem her as successful in some way, but it's not even being successful, right?
Yeah.
But we've had a great yin and yang for so many years, and like we align on so many different levels. And she even knew me kind of at the last tail end of my substance abuse journey. Actually, like the couple months after I'd met her is kind of when it finally peaked. And so she dealt with that as well, like me not calling her for multiple days because I was just on a bender or doing whatever, and me falling through a pane of glass and stabbing myself in the back and ending up in the hospital, just like weird stuff, right?
Yeah.
And she never gave
wavered.
up. She never wavered.
That. She was solid.
Like, it was amazing.
She knew you were the one. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say about your relationship and going in a little bit deeper on how you were like, hey, I want you to get more involved in real estate and all of that. And selfishly for you, you can see.
Yep.
What's interesting about you saying that is I think that God, spirit, whatever you believe in, right, puts people in your life for a reason.
Yep.
And that the success that she brings is to you and as a family and as a couple is that she's that foundation, and the things that she's doing to allow you that time to build the brokery and to build this business. If you had someone who was just as ambitious she's ambitious, but from a different perspective,
right.
if she
we wouldn't
was,
see each
you
other.
would
ambitious
never
about the
see
exact
each
same
other.
things.
We would never see
Yeah.
each other. We'd be like ships passing in the night. But one thing that she always helped me with too is there's so many times on the come up that you maybe aren't as busy as you want to be, or you didn't sell anything for 2 or 3 months, and you're like, maybe this isn't for me. Every time I thought that, she brought me right back to where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So that was like, for me, I almost went to like insurance sales and I literally almost signed the papers. This is like 2014, like as we were coming in, like starting to hit our stride, and I still didn't know if I wanted to be in or not. But every time I wavered, she was like, no, this is what you need to be doing. This is perfect. Like everything, she just kept pushing me always in the right direction. And she's like my confidant. Anytime that I have a question about anything really in business, or she thinks I don't listen to her opinions, but I promise you, I do.
And now you've recorded that right here, so you can play that whenever you need
but
to.
It is like the devil's advocate. I love to hear the differing of opinion. A lot of times we are aligned, but sometimes we're not. Or sometimes I'm an entrepreneur at heart, so a lot of times I'll throw out a business idea and she'll say yes or no, and I really value her opinion. To me, it's just important to have somebody like that, because I am so haywire in my mind sometimes that if I don't have a guiding light, or I don't have somebody pushing me in one direction, I would be in 20. So
that's right.
She's been the most amazing thing. We've known each other since longer now on this side of 18.
Crossed over.
Longer on this side of 18 than before. So
so great.
So let's go back into talking about how success has evolved for you. Talk to us about the difference that success felt like for you, or that how you envisioned it when you and Oleg first started the Suits, I guess, was the first team that you put together, to now as you sit and look back and you have 90 agents that are now at the Brokery. How does that look different from you?
Yeah, I mean, early on for me, again, I had a chip on my shoulder coming out of the Marine Corps, right? And I came back in 2009 when things were decrepit in Phoenix, really, really bad time. Yeah. But all my friends had 4 years on me. They had been in the workforce, they just graduated college. They were already in the workforce. I was just coming out with nothing, still finishing school, still figuring out what I'm going to do. I thought I was way behind. So I always had this thing of the fear of failure. And I think that's where the anxiety really spun out of control, was just that fear that I didn't know who I was, what I was going to do. Because in 2009, I probably didn't even know what a mortgage was. That was just me being naive and young and 23.
Young.
And so I came out not knowing what I wanted to do. So success to me at that point was probably just figure it out. I met Oleg. Started the ball moving on kind of the direction I wanted to go, but our goals weren't lofty. There was like, hey, maybe we'll sell 10 million this year, and if we do that, we'll be in the best spot we've ever been in. We're going to be making more than we did in our full-time jobs. And for us, that was like gold, right? That was the best thing that ever happened to us until we sold 15 million. And then it's like, what can you do next? And so you just keep raising the bar, and you keep leveling up, and you keep making bigger and crazier decisions. So for me, success over the years has, again, it started financially. But then once you get there financially, you start having diminishing returns on how much you work, when you work, and all those things. So for me, again, going back to the agents and how we can empower people. And for me, again, it's at a local level. I don't want to go out and do Tony Robbins type events. I just want to be really impactful to a select group of people that I can provide a ton of value to.
Well, and you are doing that in our brokerage by providing these roundtable discussions and mastermind opportunities where you really are curating these small groups that you can have great impact in those numbers. Not only as a leader of the company, but also those small groups. You love those opportunities.
Yeah, and you become numb to the commission checks at some point. It's not as much of a thrill as it used to be. And I can literally say that when I get in front of a group of our 50 agents this past week at the, the Brokery monthly event, like to me, I get chills leading and empowering 50 people. I led people as a corporal in the Marine Corps, but I had like 5 people and it was not at the same level.
Sure.
So it feels amazing to be up there and actually provide value back. And again, to me, it sounds so cheesy because I'm not that kind of guy. But to me, I've been feeling really good about that.
Yeah.
And to me, that feels more like success than not.
It's a new season.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that, and that's where I was talking about earlier, this change that you're probably going to see yourself shift through is less in the day-to-day transactions. If you are getting that adrenaline rush and the success and the excitement from leading.
I was going to say it's a call to leadership.
Yeah, it's a call to leadership where if the other part drains you, no, there's still excitement from that. It's still the bread and butter. You still got to,
for sure.
you still got to do what you do. But as you see yourself being pulled and called to that, I think you're going to find how do you kind of level up your business? And I always forget the name of this book that I'm reading, but it's like the 20X instead of 2X or something like that. I'll get it right.
10X Grant Cardone,
thank
maybe.
you. Yeah. And it's that mindset of, how do you 10X your life versus 2X your life?
Yes.
And you guys know I've always been big fans of marketing. So that's another thing that really gets me excited is right now I'm working on overarching strategy for the Brokery in regards to marketing and throwing a wedge between us and corporate competitors. That's like my sole focus right now. I love it. I'm so enthused again because that's where I've been able to make a lot of inroads is through our marketing and through doing these efforts that have really propelled our business to, I believe, where it is now. And again, creating this moat that we currently have in the independent space in Phoenix is incredible. We're not successful in my mind yet, but we'll get there. I don't know what success looks like in the business yet, but there's some deliverables on my end as far as creating a campaign that really resonates with myself and with our clientele and with our agents at a deeper level that I really want to get out there. And once I see that, I might have some vision of success. But
I just think the word that keeps coming through for me as we sit here today is authenticity. Every time you tap into your authenticity, it lights you up.
Yeah.
And part of that in this scenario is the branding, right? When you said it, when you'll know it when you see it, in that when it resonates with you, I'm going to use a Tucker word, that's fire, but that's what lights you up, right? And so, and leadership, being able to authentically lead in a organic way for you, that lights you up. Being able to be present lights you up. And I think that is such an important factor, is that you're not following someone else's path. You are charting your course. And when it works, you double down on it. And when it doesn't, you figure out how to do it differently.
And I think, and this isn't me patting myself on the back, but I believe that over time I've been very authentic to who I really am. Even going back to when I stopped drinking for the first time and my friends around me were like, dude, that's kind of weak. And I'm like, that's me. I just owned it, right? And there was no more peer pressure. I didn't feel the peer pressure anymore. It's a lot of times like that in business. You have these peer pressure things that people want you to do certain things, or you have to work with this lender or whoever it is, and you don't. You just have to do your thing. And I like how different we are at the moment as a company and myself as an agent, right? If I was one of 600 at a company and I was being led by somebody that I didn't believe in, to me, that's not it. I can be a sheep and I can go do that, but that's not me.
Yeah. That is not you. No, at all. You're just not that way.
So, and people a lot of times, even, so when Oleg and I started, I was 26 years old and I looked like I was 18, but I came out of the Marine Corps. So I always held my chest high. My chin was always up and people thought I was very cocky or whatever it was, but it wasn't. It was just, I grew up in the system of the Marine Corps where it was like, you always just present that way. You need to be confident. When you speak confidently. And so I feel like a lot of times I got called out early on by being too confident or being too cocky. And that wasn't it at all. That was just me being me. And I didn't step it back at all for anybody. I just went out, we still wore our suits every day and did our thing. And people thought that we were probably a little overbearing or whatever it was, but we owned it and we still wear suits every day mostly. So
yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Well, I think what you're explaining and what you're going through and gone through is a lot of people experience this, but they don't know how to kind of identify what's happening. And that, you early on started to tap into your authenticity, and people don't know how to react to that because so many people are not even sure what their authentic self is, that when we see someone else being authentic, it's like, whoa,
the mirror's up.
And, it doesn't.
And authenticity is confidence. If you can be confident in who you are and what you're doing, that is authenticity. And
that's why I was know yourself.
I was always confident in who I was and what I was doing.
Yep.
I didn't need the approval from other people.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be who I was being.
Yeah.
And that's simply
And you needed that autonomy to do that.
And that right there can go so far in so many different ways and can resonate in different ways in someone's life. To just be confident, live in the skin you're in, know the phase of life you're in, live that life for yourself and not for anyone else. You know, when you kind of dial that in, and for most people, it takes a lot longer. You know, I feel like I'm just now starting to get into that phase of my life where I'm like, why am I chasing what I think others want me to do?
Yeah.
Right.
Chase what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And if that means X, it means X. And if, you know what I mean? And that is where you get excited. That's where you get a jam.
Got it.
You got it. That's where things like, you're like, okay, then that's when you can start peeling back. Right. And you had mentioned this earlier, when you get distracted by things.
Yes.
You know, this is where when you can truly tone into your authenticity, stop listening to the noise of those around you, stop being influenced by those around you, stop trying to be what others want you to be. Then you can start thinking, what am I being distracted by? And I know you're passionate about that too.
Yeah. So I think the episode, we're going to call this, you know, your edge, or what's your edge, right? Or something along those lines.
Know your edge.
Amen.
So as I said earlier, when I'm not challenged, I'm not progressively getting better at something, I get distracted with whatever's going on, I start to lose my edge. My edge is real estate. It can be anything in real estate, because that's where I'm at every single day of my life. That's what I'm surrounded by. And that's where I've made, you know, my network and my net worth.
Yeah.
So in real estate, that's my edge. When I start to stray, I get bored and I start to stray out, start some apps, spend hundreds of thousands on apps. I start to stray out and I do stock market trading, never made any money on the stock market. But when I know my edge, I usually win. The odds are in my favor to win. And so if you can do one thing consistently and put all of your energy and effort into one thing rather than multiple things, the odds are well in your favor, and you're going to be great at whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So on that though, dig deeper into that as far as knowing your edge. So now you know your edge is real estate. So you're going to stay focused on real estate, but real estate can be distracting.
Real estate has it's multifaceted. It could be investing. It could be helping buyers and sellers transact traditionally. It could be wholesaling. It could be creative finance. It could be so many things. And
starting a brokerage.
It's very easy. It is very easy to get distracted. I would not start a brokerage again.
And scene.
And so, no, it can be very distracting. There's so many disciplines within real estate, but I feel like if you know real estate, you can navigate any of those, but you need to subscribe to one or two of those disciplines very well. So for me, it's brokerage and leading agents and transacting with traditional buyers and sellers. It may look completely different for somebody else. That's for me personally. I don't dabble in commercial very often.
Right.
I don't do rental properties because I just know that's not me. And that's not what I'm best at.
Right.
So I'm dialed into one or two disciplines every single day, and that's all that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, I think that ties back to Quest because we talk so much about that with the core belief of Quest that every step matters.
Yep.
And you've spoken throughout this episode about that consistency and doing something that you do well over and over and over and over and over again leads to wins. Whatever those wins look like is really honestly the irrelevant part. It's about the consistency and discipline in those actions that will lead you forward.
Yep.
It also takes great initiative, which is another one of our core beliefs. And I find it so fascinating that at the root of all of it, that you are able to identify what that is. You do have an innate ability, as we talked about earlier, to just tune out the noise, double down, move forward. Yeah. But there's also something that I feel is maybe not always easily accessible for people to see. There is a great openness that you have about being open to the possibilities of what that could lead to, what that could mean, and you'll explore it. If it feels that it falls within something that's true to you, you'll explore it. That's not a distraction per se. It's really about you're open to where the evolution of that will go. I
would say personally, I don't like confrontation. That's one of my scariest things for me is having conversations with anybody. I just like to go about my life simply. You'll always know where you stand with me. It's either black or white. You know, I don't think anybody has any problems knowing where I stand. I'll just say it, right?
Yeah.
I'm just a matter of fact. There's no emotion tied to a lot of decisions I make. It's purely factual. You know, I don't put a lot of bias into things because I am open, I feel like, to hearing other people's opinions. Mm-hmm. And obviously we've had within our brokerage before, you know, we've talked about splits or whatever it might be, whatever problem we're having at the time. But I feel like I'm open to your side and hoping to bring it together for a deal, right? I'm all about making deals happen, making people happy. I think the best negotiations come on both sides. I feel like everybody gave wins. Something. They gave a little something, but they both won.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, that's I listen and I value those. And sometimes Ashley thinks, for example, that I'm not listening, but it's taking in her opinion. Thinking about it for a few days, and maybe it spits back out in a way that's similar, but maybe a little change.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
But always be open. And I feel like I'm that way typically. Yeah.
I love that. I could sit here all day.
I know.
We could literally do 4 episodes with you about all these different things. If you could go back now and speak to 2 Tuckers. First, the one that was at U of A.
Yep.
And getting ready to make a big decision as to what the future really was about, which I just think is, as you know, I lost someone to addiction. So to hear that you saw the writing on the wall for what your life could look like and that you chose a different way is something it's really one of the things I respect most about you.
Sure.
Because I know what courage that took. And that was not the easy way out. You chose the hard road. And that is, to me, I just have such great respect for that. But if you could say something to that Tucker, and then also to the Tucker who was exploring real estate and was waiting for Oleg to finish the showing because you were like, that's my house and I'm going to get that house. Talk to me about what you would say, or to us about what you would say to that Tucker.
Sure. So first, I think
a tale of 2 Tuckers.
The younger, we'll take the younger Tucker first. There's so much more to life than being 18 or 19. I thought like life back then, I was invincible. I didn't think far out into the future. I didn't have a future. I had no confidence. All those things were problems for me, and that led me to do things that I shouldn't have, right? Or I was always giving my anxiety, I was putting peace to my anxiety through substances, which I didn't realize I had anxiety at the time, but looking back, that's all it was.
Sure. It's a coping mechanism.
For sure. But, and had I taken a step back, I probably would have taken maybe a semester off of school, figured myself out first, then gone back to school. But looking back, it's all about learning from losses. Right. I think that going throughout my entire life, as long as I'm learning from decisions that I'm making, I'm always winning the next time. Right. I'm not making the same mistake twice. Yeah. Or at least I hope I'm not. But that's what I really pride myself on, is if you make a mistake, learn from it. And move on, and don't make the same mistake the next time. And then to the newer Tucker, I guess, or the revised version here with Oleg, I would say that, just always think bigger. Sometimes I get narrow-minded. I'm not thinking big enough, which sounds crazy, but I think I could be bigger and do more. I'm kind of the more conservative type, but I think that if you can continue to move at a pace, it's not always fast, but move and then aim, right? Like shoot, then aim, then figure it out later, because you're going to make it work. If you're successful or you want to be better at something, just keep making mistakes.
I love that.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
because you keep growing.
Always.
Oh, I love this. I love this. This is one of our questions that we ask all of our guests. How do you define success? We've talked through it, but I just want to hear Tucker Blalock's
Webster Dictionary.
To me, I'll tell you what success feels like to me is fulfilling, which we've all talked about many times. Feeling good, eating right, staying in the gym or out on the trail or running. Those things make me feel really good. So if I can do more of those things, I feel my success is tied to my mental state as well. So like if I'm feeling good mentally and physically, success.
That's the sweet spot.
Because I know that if I feel good in those 2 areas of my life, everything else works. Yeah. Like if I'm good mentally, I'm good physically, we're winning. That's it.
Yeah.
So
because there's no other choice.
That's it.
Oh, I love that.
So we feel like leaders are readers. We like to have things that rhyme. So do you have a passion for reading or knowledge or just podcasts? You know?
I listen to podcasts. So a couple of people that I really like, Andy Elliott he's a little bit more, he's going to be off-putting to some people because he's very harsh, but a lot of the stuff that he talks about is so true. Yeah. He was in the used car sales business, training car salesmen. He's like the largest car salesman trainer in the country now. Another guy I like is Alex Hormozy. Kind of good for all facets of business. His thing was turning around gyms. Ooh. Yeah. So Alex Hormozy, you might know him as the guy that wears like the nose strip across his nose, kind of a buff guy.
I honestly can say I don't
tapping
know
into
who
his authenticity.
Exactly.
There.
So those 2 guys I listen to a lot for inspiration stuff. Yeah. And then I like to listen to like startup ideas. I think it's like How I Built This by Guy Raz.
Love that.
That's a good one about just stories like the owner, like the guy who started Viore, for example, or just any business that you like.
Yeah.
They've been on that podcast, and it's just so cool to hear visionary stories about where they were, how they got there.
Agree.
It's so good. So like those are the three that I'm in. I'm more of like a micro reader. So like it's usually internet based, really quick, 5-minute in and out, or on my phone. I'm never sitting to read a book. So
yeah. I love that. Great podcast, by the way. Good. So we will link to those three for sure.
Absolutely.
Because there are many people, honestly, I've had to train myself and to be very focused about reading, but I still try to digest through Audible because I'm on the go. The car is like, I always treat my car as my mobile classroom. You know, if I'm in the car, then let me be doing something for my brain while I'm doing that.
Because we can't just sit there and do nothing. That's not our personalities.
And it's hard. I think this is something I'm learning about myself, is that sitting and reading, it's like the foot starts going, I'm twirling the hair. I'm like, okay, you have issues. We're going to just put it in your ears instead. So, but it's about digesting things that help us get better.
And one thing I've talked about recently is, even when you're not working, and we talked about this as like the fisherman analogy, right? When fishermen are not fishing, they're repairing their nets. And so that's what I'm trying to do. When I'm not working actively at the Brokery office, I'm probably watching like Ryan Serhant on YouTube, or I'm ingesting some other kind of real estate content to better my knowledge. I'm reading the Wall Street Journal. I'm always constantly surrounding myself with positive real estate information that I can take back to my clients or my agents. And that's, for me, like that's everything. Again, that's staying in my lane. That's knowing my edge, building my edge, and just continuing to do that over time.
Yeah,
so powerful, Tucker.
Thank you.
So
this
powerful.
Has been amazing.
How can people connect with you? If someone is thinking about going into real estate, someone's, interested about your path, your journey, or just really wants to know more about you and the Brokery, what does that look like?
Super available. You can always find me at Tucker Blalock, just simply my name.
Boom.
On Instagram. You can easily reach me at 602-561-0445. You can put it out there.
I love it. He's just like, just text me.
And just text or call anytime. And also, for those of you that have kids, maybe your parents, and they want to enlist maybe in the services, I'm always game to talk about that too, and what it looks like and how you can position your kid for success in the armed forces.
Yes.
Because I didn't have any mentors going in. I kind of just went on my own whim. Yeah. So if I can help anybody in that regard as well, I'm always game to do that.
Thank you for your service.
You bet.
Not only to our country, but to your agents, to me and Debbie personally. We appreciate you. We have so much respect for you, and it was such a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Again, I respect both of you immensely. You've been a big part of my life in my sales career and at the Brokery. Whether you're at the Brokery or not, we still love you the same. And maybe one day we'll get to do something together. I know that we'll do deals in the future together, but I appreciate you both so much.
Thank you so much, Tucker.
Thanks for joining us. If you loved this episode and know of someone who would find value in it, please spread the word and share it with a friend. We are passionate about redefining success, and it would mean the world if you could help us get our mission out to as many people as possible. Please take a minute to write a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. You can also hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Connect with us on Instagram at Success Resequencing Project or via our website at www.successresequencing.com. We'd love to hear your story.